Hi, welcome to the Chad Bozarth Show. Thanks for listening. Albert, good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you, Chad.
Thanks so much for being involved in this experiment with me.
Absolutely, it's great. Great to be
Where are you
here.
co- where are you coming from?
I just got back from Jiu-Jitsu,
So
Brazilian.
now,
Yeah.
so I'm a white belt.
Nice.
Thank you. That's the first belt that they give you in case people don't know. And I did it for a few months, but you're a purple belt.
Yes, yes. So everybody's a white belt. Did you know that? Everybody's
Everybody, even people who haven't taken any class, are a white belt.
right, exactly. So yeah, I'm a purple belt, three-stripe purple belt. So yeah, you get a degree, like a degree every so often on your belt, and so I'm a three-stripe purple belt. Yeah.
So how long did that take you to
Oh,
get to
too
that
long.
point?
Too long, too long. Most people it would take about 6, 8 years. I think I'm on year 12 now. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. I'm a little older, so and I'm what's considered a hobbyist. So it's a hobby for me. It's not a career. It's not too serious for me, but I enjoy it, and I do it 2, 3 times a week.
You know, I feel like so many people talk about UFC and fighting and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I remember, gosh, it was maybe the late 90s. I remember going to Blockbuster with my brother, and I think it was even maybe like in the adult section or something like that, special interest section, and renting like the first couple UFC fights.
Absolutely,
And it was
absolutely.
like this weird thing. It's so mainstream now. Everybody's such a well-rounded fighter, but back then it was like, karate versus jujitsu, or I think there was a ninja or something. Anyway, I don't know about it, but it's come a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was at Blockbuster as well as probably in 12th grade and in college too. I remember going to Blockbuster and renting those videos. So
How
yeah.
did how did you get into it? Like why did you choose Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu over any of the other disciplines?
So I did Taekwondo growing up for about 4 years, and then my instructors. It was a nonprofit school, and they kind of shut down, so I didn't continue. And around that same time, believe it or not, there was, jujitsu didn't really gain popularity until the UFC, but there were some practitioners, mostly in California and Los Angeles. Now, where I'm from in Texas, there was nobody, but one of my classmates happened to train Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. They were from Brazil, and his dad was a black belt, and this Da Silva was their last name, and they invited me to train, and I wasn't able to just because scheduling and stuff like that. Wasn't able to train with them, but it always stuck with me, that name, and then so when I saw it in the UFC, I was like, I remember that, and it was just intriguing. And as an adult, my cousin wanted to do it, and he actually paid my first week, my first month. We did the trial, and then he paid a month for him and a month for me, and then he never showed up again. And I just kept going. So that was about 11, 12 years ago.
What do you think it was? I really enjoyed it when I did it, but obviously I didn't stick with it. Maybe I did it for 3 months or something like that. What has helped you stick with it like you have? Because I mean, every time I see you, we're talking about it, or you've been so just faithful with it. And what do you think? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think the main thing is getting over that mental hurdle of always losing at the beginning,
Mm.
and then even now, it's like, I rolled this morning with a gentleman that's about, I think, 26, and a very, athletic build and stuff. And after the roll, I told the coach, make sure he knows that I'm 50 years old, because I want him to know that I'm a dad of four, And and that's where I'm coming from. I want him to have a reference point. But it's basically the mental battle, because you're in there with people that are better than you, um, younger than you, stronger than you, faster than you, and you're never on top. Sometimes you're on top momentarily. You might be the better one in that class at that day, and then somebody else shows up and dethrones you. So jujitsu is always a give and take. There's never a settling. There was a gentleman, high level black belt, that said jujitsu never gets easier, and I thought, how in the world is that true? Because
Hmm.
you're getting better at something. And now, here 11 years down the road or so, I see it never gets easier. You're fighting against yourself. You're getting better. What you're doing is improving on yourself. It's not winning a match. It's not winning against XYZ opponent. It's winning against you. And so when you're able to beat that mental battle or win that mental battle, you're able to show up every day and go. I heard a story about a gentleman who won. I believe it was the Boston Marathon, and he was an unknown, and it was his first marathon, and he won it. This was years ago. It was a little article I read, and I believe it was the Boston Marathon. But they asked him, "How did you know when you were going to win?" And they were thinking he was gonna say, "Oh, mile 7 or mile 20," and he said, "I knew I was gonna win one day when I was running, and I hadn't even noticed that it was raining."
Mm.
And so he got up to run, and the rain didn't stop him. But more than that, he didn't even notice the rain until mid-run. Oh, it's raining. So he had wired his mind so well just to get up and run every day. And I always think back on that story. Like, I'm not that extreme, but sometimes I just don't want to go, and I make myself go. So
Mm.
I think that's the key.
Mm. You know, I remember one time I was rolling on the mat with somebody, and I would always lose, regardless whether it was a beginner or somebody more seasoned. But it was an interesting kind of physical experience because I remember I could tell the difference between a beginner and someone who was not a beginner, because somebody who had more time and had spent more time studying and rolling and training, it was almost like it felt like a dance. So I knew they were still going to beat me, but I wasn't worried about getting hurt. Whereas like the newer people, it was like erratic, and it was kind of scary because of how erratic it was. But the older people, it was like this smooth kind of dance sensation. And I just remember that standing out to me,
Yeah,
how
the
that
movements are a
felt.
little. Yeah, the movements are a little more precise, a little more calculated, for sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you said just showing up. Um, so you've been doing jujitsu for that long. I know you started out in your career, correct me if I'm wrong, you worked in a body shop, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I used to work in paint and body shop since age 14 to about 30, 31, somewhere around there.
And day in and day out in that, did you just kind of fall into that job? It was just like one of the things that was available to you, and so you took it because you needed money.
I always loved vehicles. I always loved cars, and I kind of fell into it because of my love for cars. And there was a little shop behind the bar that my dad worked at, and I would just spend my time there. And they just started paying me to sand down cars or to clean the shop, and then gradually I just worked myself up. And I met a gentleman, a shop owner at my church, and he invited me to go work for him. And his pitch was, "Hey, I can't pay you, but I'll make sure that you have food, and I'll make sure that you learn everything that I know." And I went home and told my mom. I was 16, and she said, "Yeah, yeah, I'll make sure you have gas money." And so I went, and it was a apprenticeship type thing, and I learned, how to work, how to treat people, and I think some of the sales tactics, not tactics, but sales methods, is a little softer word for that. I learned from those experiences. Yeah.
Were you well received in that environment since you were so young, or was that difficult? Because, I think the way I am, if I am going to fail, I like it to be in something that's not permanent. So like, um, if you're like acting or something, or even doing a podcast, or even playing a sport or something, sometimes you fail and it's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. It's like that egg has been scrambled. You know what I mean? You
Right.
can't, there's nothing. But the idea of working on a car, something like that, it's like if you mess up, and it would cost money to fix the mess up. So I'm like terrified of anything like that where my mistake would be uh, permanent, kind of in a way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Early on, I realized like, okay, I'm not going to be a frame guy. I'm not going to be a body guy. I like the paint side, but I really didn't want to be exposed to all those chemicals, although I was for a while. Um, I decided I wanted to go into managerial, and so I kind of found my track in that, and that's where I moved into. I mean, I started from the bottom, and you talk about being uncomfortable, as a young person in the body shop. When I made it to the first big corporate body shop, I was 19. And yeah, you have to have some thick skin because it's a bunch of roughneck alpha males that are just looking for any vulnerability just to pass the day. And it's that hazing, that teasing, and some people just don't make it. But yeah, I guess I developed thick skin and moved up slowly within a couple of years. I think about 19 to 23. I was in the paint shop. At 23, I moved up to the front office, and I was an estimator slash service advisor. And then I remember on my birthday, March 28th, 1998, they switched me from a salaried position to a full commission employee, yeah, a full commission person, and I was so nervous. I was so nervous, and I remember the day, not only because it was my birthday, but because it hailed that day. There was
Hmm.
the biggest hailstorm at that time in in that recent history, and they had 70,000 hail claims, and we were at the epicenter. And so I made so much money the next 2 years off of that one hailstorm, and it was incredible. But it was that one day I went on full commission. I never looked back. Never wanted to be salary again. So
Wow. Did you have any say in that transition, or it was just like, okay, Albert, we're setting you free?
yeah, they set me free, man. They were just like, hey, you've matured. You need to you need to sink or swim. And so that was it. Yeah, I never looked back. It was a great transition for me.
Okay, I want to read something that I picked up on your Facebook, something that you posted. You said, when I was 19, a friend pulled me aside and asked me if I had ever considered real estate. I said no, and she proceeded to list all the wonderful attributes she thought I had and how I would be great at it. Up to this point, only my family had ever encouraged me this way. Her words hung on me, and I never forgot. I struggled with self-worth, and I couldn't believe she saw those things in me. Years later, when I finally took her advice, she immediately scolded me for not listening sooner. She then handed me my very first deal in real estate. It was my first day as a licensed agent, and she entrusted me with her client that was moving to the DFW area. She literally started my career. I'm forever thankful to have known her, forever grateful to Marlette.
Yes.
So, thinking about that, working in the body shop, going to from salary to commission only, and then having somebody at a young age see something in you that you didn't even see in yourself. And then not only were they empty words, or not empty words, but not only were they just words, but she was willing to kind of put her money where her mouth was, and get you started in that way. I saw that, and it was amazing to me, because I think, um, I don't know, that was powerful to me. The how important it is to have people around you that can see things in yourself that you don't even see.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And speaking out, some people, their love language is words of affirmation, and I always had that from my mother. Like,
That's mine, by the way. So
it
any,
is. Oh,
yeah.
great.
So
Well, I love this
just,
podcast, and I'm
just
glad
letting you know.
I'm glad you're doing it, and I think a lot of people will be encouraged from it. But um, yeah, my mom, I could tell her, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna start a new venture. I'm gonna be building alien auto parts, for their spaceships," and she'll be like, "Oh, that's fantastic," you know. She won't really ask any follow-up questions like, is there a need for that? Or do you have to travel out of space or anything? No, she'll just say, wow, that's great. I guess you found a niche that you want to work. Okay, great, fantastic, phenomenal. And she'll, of course, I'm exaggerating, but she's always been a cheerleader for me. And so I was kind of used to that. And when you get into adulthood, there's a lot of that, but still not almost not enough, and sometimes you hear it from a stranger, it's almost more believable, from them than from yourself or from a parent, somebody
Yeah.
external. So it's important, I think, to encourage young people and and just tell them, hey, I see your giftings. Sometimes they don't see it themselves.
It's so hard for me getting older. I'm kind of a nostalgic person, and then being uh, 40 now, it's kind of one of those things. My parents were very encouraging of me growing up too, and you kind of have this, you can do whatever you want when you grow up. You can be whatever you want to be. But then when you start getting older, like I couldn't be an astronaut now. Like I could really want it, but there are
Right.
certain things that I probably could have never been, but that I can't be right now. And then thinking about what you said about jujitsu and all the things we've talked about, I think I heard an anecdote. Um, Somebody was asking Matt Damon like what acting advice he would give to somebody, and I think he said something like, "Well, if you're thinking about acting, don't do it."
Mhm.
His point was, if that stops you from acting, then you can't handle it. You won't be able. If me saying you can't do it stops you, you won't be able to do it. So I have that tension in my mind of I see the wisdom in that, but then I also see the wisdom of what Marlette told you of encouraging you and bringing you out. And so that tension in life of speaking truth and wisdom to somebody, but also being encouraging. I struggle with that sometimes as a parent, just as a person, just um, you know, trying to figure out that tension and that balance. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Oh, absolutely, man. We're always looking for that affirmation externally, for sure.
Yeah, that man, my parents were so encouraging of me, and I'm so thankful for that. I was telling my mother-in-law last night, though, there was a basketball game where it was so funny to me. I tell this as a joke because my parents were like the poster children for encouraging their kids. But after playing in this one particular basketball game, I remember getting in the car and I could feel the shame in the air. They couldn't believe how bad I played. I played so bad the coach even told the other team members not to pass me the ball. Anyway, that
Oh,
has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but um I love so speaking of encouraging you to be a real estate agent, you've been an agent now for how many years?
I'm about to be in my 12th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been awarded top producer in real
Yeah.
estate in the DFW area multiple times.
Yes, but that's kind of a marketing kind of angle, because when you're top producer, what does that mean? Does that mean in DFW, or does that mean DFW in your office? And so those were, yeah, in my office. So I happen to be top producer in my office those times, multiple times. But yeah, every office has their little spin on awards and stuff like that. They're just marketing tools, to put them out there. And people think you're the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. But that, I just keep thinking about your life trajectory, and that's interesting because on the one hand, I feel like there's so many real estate agents, but on the other hand, what are the statistics? A pretty small percentage of people who are technically real estate agents can survive off of what they make being a real estate agent, right?
Oh, absolutely. In Texas, I think nationwide, it's 80% of new agents quit in the first year.
Wow.
And I believe in Texas, it's 90% of new agents.
Mm.
And so, although there's always new agents, a lot of them quit. And they, unfortunately, they do, one or two deals. And then, and it's rough. It's rough on the other side when you're dealing with a brand new agent. It's really rough, just the negotiation process and the teaching process. Because for me, I wanted to be a win-win situation, and I don't want it to be combative. And sometimes I find myself teaching the other agent, like, "Hey, are you sure you want to put this on there?" They're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because you're giving away the farm here. Like, is that what your intention was?" And I want to be upfront about it because it's going to come up later. It's going to come up. And so a win-win situation is always ideal.
But before there's one other subject I want to ask you about. But before we transition, in the realm of real estate, is there one or two just Albert nuggets that you would give to somebody who is either thinking about getting into real estate or maybe they're currently in real estate but they're struggling?
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, for sure. And I think this goes for anything. I tell my kids this all the time. Don't listen to white belts. And so you don't listen to white belts. Somebody that is at your level
mm,
or below your level, you can hear them and you can be respectful, but don't internalize what they tell you right away. Go
mm,
check it. Go check it. And also, specifically to real estate, it's kind of it's a little strange because you have those black belts, those veterans, and the veterans don't have time to teach you what it's going to take to be successful. And so you have to pay for their time. And so if you want to be successful, you've got to pay for somebody's time so they can teach you. But
mm,
uh, when it's all said and done, it is a business, and it's not. If you're working for Century 21 or Remax, you're working with under their banner, whatever it is. Um, you don't. It's not Remax or Century 21 or Keller Williams or whatever XYZ brokerage that's running your business. It's you running your business, and it's a business. It might be just one self-employed person, but it is a business, and you have to go out and get the leads. You have to go out and hustle and tell everybody. Make sure everybody knows you're a real estate agent. Kind of like vegans tell everybody they're vegans. Yeah, that's who you have to be.
mm,
You know. And jujitsu people tell everybody they do jujitsu. We want to find everybody that does jujitsu. We want to find everybody that needs to buy a house or sell a house.
mm.
You know?
And that's a vulnerable, to me, that's kind of a vulnerable place to be to like let everybody know that you're a real estate agent or anything, because then you're like tying your identity to the success or failure of that thing.
Oh, sure.
I remember years ago when I first started acting, you're trying to get stuff on your resume and you're trying to do all of this, and then you have that fear that when you go to a party and it's like, should I tell people I'm an actor or not?
Mhm.
Because the moment you tell somebody you're an actor, what's going to be the next question? Well, what have you been in? What have I seen
Right.
you in? And it's
Right.
like, well, probably you haven't seen me in anything. But like, trust me, I'm an actor, and it's like other actors understand that. And other it's like whatever industry you're in, there's a grace in that industry. People understand the struggle of what you're going to. But it's like then when you cross industries, sometimes it's like people have these expectations, of like, oh, really? Oh, okay,
Absolutely, man.
It's like
Absolutely.
what level of success do you have to have before you can identify with whatever it is?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I have that same kind of deal because uh, people are thinking, man, this guy's all over the place. Because I've been in probably 18 commercials, and
Yeah.
you've
You
only
were in a Spanish Whataburger commercial, right?
yeah,
What a burger. Not Whataburger. What a burger.
that's right. Yeah, and that one ran for 6.5 years, but it's like, yeah, that's my claim to fame. And um, you know, 18 or so commercials, like 3 or 4 movie. I think 4 movies if you count that other independent one, the one that never came out. And so, um, you're in them, but it's like, what did you do? Like, it sounds cool, but I earned like $150 a day. It was nothing. And so, yeah, I understand that. I'm also a screenwriter, and it's like, oh, what have you written? Well, nothing's been produced.
Okay, but on that note, and what I wanted to ask you about is in the remaining time we have, Harrison Time Detective has about
Uh,
26,000 views on X,
yeah,
Twitter.
26,
So you
27,000.
have started, you haven't just dipped your toe, you've kind of jumped in with both feet. I forget who said that. Into the world of artificial intelligence and AI filmmaking and everything. And I know some of my listeners, like, I feel a tension here because a lot of people don't like this. A lot of people are upset about all of the AI stuff and what it means. And I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it, but all I know is that it's coming and it's here and you've jumped in. So tell me a little bit about this, your experience, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, AI filmmaking, like, I mean, you think about those really awkward videos that you see online where the person morphs into something else, and that's not what I'm doing. Or the voiceover, you know, not like mini documentaries where it's of clearly an AI voice teaching you or trying to rally the troops for one side or the other. None of that. I'm doing narrative film, and even then, you have a lot of people. It's on X. It seems like that's what they live for. Like, their accounts are specifically driven to just hate on it. But I'm also artistic in the sense that I'm a writer. I've painted. I don't know if you saw the car that I painted. I'll send it to you, but that one's also trickery. I painted a vehicle. It's a 1934 Ford three-window coupe, and I painted it rust. And I
Mm.
painted and it looks like a rusted car, but
Yeah,
it's
you did
actually
send that to me.
yeah, it's actually a fiberglass car. And
Mm.
car builders have seen that car and been tricked into thinking that it's a metal rusted old car. And
Mm.
so I love that expression. I love painting. I love writing. And I'm dyslexic, so writing is a challenge sometimes. Um, but ChatGPT, is a great help. It does my spell check and my grammar check and all that. Um, but yes, a lot of people, especially artists, are very, very upset, and I can see their point. A good friend of mine, Noel, he's an amazing artist, and he's all into AI, and because you have to have some artistry base, some artistic base. For instance, for me, it's the storytelling, it's the screenwriting. I have to have that base. Can you do that with AI? It can be an aid. It can help you for sure. But at the end of the day, you're writing the script. You're structuring it. You're coming up with everything. And so some people are just upset because I don't see it taking over, but um, it's making the average person into they have the ability now to create things that are more than average. I mean, they're sometimes spectacular, and so it's like a cheat code. But I think that argument has existed in art for the longest time, and I'm careful of calling AI art, because it's the art of writing prompts. You're not creating the art, but it's you're writing the prompt, and the AI is generating these images. And so I understand that it's not you're not taking a brush, uh, you're not doing any of those things that traditional art um, is doing. But the argument has always been there. You take muralist, you take somebody who draws a mural, and it's like, oh, you're using a projector to project your art up there. Oh, you're using a stencil. Oh, you're using, oh, you should freehand that, and you should do this and that. There's always going to be arguments in art. Always, there's going to be those people that see abstract art as not art, and they only see realism as art. I love realism. I love American realism. I love Gothic um, art. I love murals. I love sculptures, but I also love abstracts. When I see an abstract, I see technique. I see uh, consumption of time there. Like how what were you thinking? It makes me ask questions when I see an abstract piece of art. And so you have to be an appreciator of art in order to create something like a short film that is coherent and at the end of the day tells the story that you intended to tell.
Hmm. How did you get started in that? Like what was kind of the
Catalyst there.
yeah, catalyst is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kept sending me things that I was kind of thinking, nah, whatever. I'm not really impressed by that. And then
I
I don't
remember when
rem
we first talked about it, I was really trying to get the verbal affirmation. That's my love language, and I could tell
yeah,
you were not interested at all in what I was showing you.
yeah. But but then I guess some piece that you sent me, it just opened my eyes and I thought, wow, the future is here. And here's the thing, like somebody like me that is dabbling in production work. I've done production work. I've done local, I was a producer locally and did commercial work, did industrial video work, and that kind of thing. Documentary, we worked on some, me and you did. And, coming from that, yet not being able to portray a story the way I want it portrayed because of limitations in time and limitations in budget. Now you don't have the limitations in budget anymore with AI.
Hmm.
It's not going to be 100% what you want, but it's going to be way better than what you can produce without it.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm at with AI. I'm all in, but I think it's not a matter of dominating the industry. I don't think AI is going to dominate the industry. I think it's going to supplement the industry. And
Because do you
big,
think? Because go ahead.
yeah, no, big Hollywood is already using it. We're just not told.
Well, and you didn't just start with that. I mean, we've been down to El Salvador together a couple of times, and you've done legit, like real documentaries with traditional production. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. It's hard to wrap your brain around what's going on and this period of transition we're in.
Oh, absolutely. Every month there's new updates and new information, and AI is just driving forward, man. I mean, it's a train that's oncoming. So there's no stopping it.
Yeah. Well, man, Albert, I'm so thankful to talk to you for my first episode, and you are such a unique individual and man of many talents. And so I'm so thankful that you would take some time and talk to me. Before we wrap this up, is there one word of encouragement or motivation you'd like to give? I mean, because you've had your hands in a lot of different pots over the years, and you seem to find success pretty much in anything you put your hand to. And so,
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's part delusion. Part is delusion because uh, the statistics are there. 90% of realtors fail. I always had that naive quality of like, well, I'm the 10%. I'm in the 10%. I might be at the lower part of the 10%, but I'm going to succeed.
Mm,
Uh, it's always the statistic. I've always gone above the statistic because of how I grew up. The statistics were that I should have been in a gang. I should have not finished high school. I should have, had a child early on in life. All those things, uh, but God, and I had a praying mom that really refused to allow me to do those things, not in a way, in a commanding way, but in a gentle, leading way,
mm,
led me towards things that were more godly. And and so I think that you have to ignore the statistics, be aware of the statistics, but ignore it at the same time. You have
mm.
to be naive, and you have to be prepared. You have to go in and balance that with that analysis paralysis, that where you overanalyze something so much that you just don't jump in. It's like this podcast. You jumped in. Do you know everything? No. Are you going to learn? Yeah, of course. And it's just going to get better and better. And Chad, I hope you bring me back on for the 100th episode. That would be great.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. Put it on my calendar.
Yeah,
That'd be great. Awesome. Well, Albert, thank you so much for your encouragement and thank you for hanging out with me. And I definitely look forward to talking to you for our 100th episode, probably even before then, because there's a lot of different rabbit trails I'd love to go down and talk to you about.
absolutely, man. That would be fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you.